Hi and welcome to Apex Atlas. There are countries shaped by mountains, countries shaped by deserts, countries shaped by war. But the Netherlands was shaped by water, a land where the sea is never far away, where rivers cut through the country like veins, where people didn't just live on the land, they built it. From Roman frontiers along the Rhine, to medieval towns rising from marshes, from merchants and ships that connected the world, to revolts that defied empires, the Netherlands became something extraordinary. A small country with a global footprint, a republic that turned trade into power, a nation that survived invasion, occupation, and disaster, and rebuilt again and again. This is not just the story of a place. It's the story of what happens when a people refuse to sink in the sea or under anyone else's rule. This is the Netherlands, and this is its story. Before the Dutch, Romans, Franks, and the lowlands c. 50 BCE, 800 CE. A country built on the edge of water. Before the Netherlands became famous for windmills, canals, and world trade. Before it became a republic that challenged empires. Before there was anything that could be called Dutch. There was only the lowland. A wide, flat world of rivers and mud, reed marshes and shifting coastlines. A landscape where land and sea argued constantly, where the ground could vanish beneath your feet, where survival depended less on conquest and more on adaptation. This is the beginning of the Netherlands, not as a nation, but as a place. A place shaped by water, by borders, and by the empires that tried to control it. Because the Netherlands was never born in peace. It was born at the frontier. The lowlands, geography as destiny. To understand early Dutch history, you have to understand one truth first. This land is not naturally stable. The Netherlands sits at the mouth of great European rivers. The Rhine, the Meuse, the Scheldt. They spread into a delta, and deltas are always changing. The sea pushes inland. The rivers flood outward. Sandbanks shift. Coastlines creep. This means early communities lived in a world where nature was never fully conquered. They built lives on land that could drown overnight. And that shaped how society developed here. Not around mountains or deserts, but around water management, survival, and cooperation. Before Rome, tribes of the marshlands. Long before Roman soldiers marched into northern Europe, the lowlands were home to Germanic and Celtic-influenced peoples living in scattered communities. They built settlements on higher ground where possible. In flood-prone areas, some lived on artificial mounds, early versions of what would later become terps, raised hills built to keep homes above water. Life here wasn't about building monumental cities. It was about enduring. Fishing, farming, small-scale trade, and constant movement shaped early survival. But everything changed when the world's greatest empire turned its attention north. Rome arrives, the empire meets the swamp. By the 1st century BCE, Rome was expanding aggressively into northern Europe. Julius Caesar fought campaigns in Gaul, and the Roman world pressed toward the Rhine. The lowlands were not Rome's dream territory. They were wet, cold, and difficult to control. But Rome understood something strategic. The Rhine was a natural border, a line of water that could separate the Roman world from the tribal world beyond. So the Netherlands became something crucial, a frontier zone, not fully conquered like Gaul, not untouched like deeper Germania, a place where Rome built defenses, trade, and control. The Roman limes, border of empire. Along the Rhine, the Romans created what historians call the limes, a network of military forts, roads, and outposts. It was not a single wall like Hadrian's Wall in Britain. It was a system, fort after fort, connected by roads and river transport. Roman soldiers lived along these lines for generations. They built camps that grew into towns. They brought Roman law, Roman currency, Roman trade networks, and Roman cultural influence. The Rhine wasn't just a river anymore. It became the edge of civilization in Roman eyes. And the lowlands became a place of constant interaction. Roman tribe, market and war, language and culture. The peoples of the Roman Netherlands. Within and around this frontier lived groups such as the Batavians, the Frisians, and other Germanic tribes connected to the region. These communities were not passive victims. They were political actors. Some fought Rome. Some traded with Rome. Some allied with Rome to survive and gain advantage. The Batavians, in particular, became deeply connected to Roman power. They supplied soldiers, especially skilled cavalry, to the Roman army. This was a bargain. Rome gained fighters. Local elites gained prestige and influence. But bargains with empires rarely stay equal forever. The Batavian Revolt, when an ally turns. One of the most dramatic events in early lowland history is the Batavian Revolt, around 69 to 70 CE. The Batavians had served Rome, but tensions grew. Rome demanded more tribute, more soldiers, more obedience, and local resentment rose. Then, during a time when Rome itself was unstable, the year of the 4 emperors, the Batavians rebelled. They attacked Roman forts. They challenged imperial control. For a moment, it looked as if the lowlands might break free from Rome's grip. But Rome responded with force. The revolt was crushed, and the message was clear. Rome could tolerate allies, but not independence. Still, the revolt mattered, because it showed something that would repeat again and again in Dutch history. When central power becomes too heavy, the lowlands resist. Life under Rome, trade in a frontier world. Despite conflict, Roman influence shaped daily life across the southern lowlands. Towns grew near forts. Markets formed. People traded goods along rivers like highways. Roman items flowed into the region. Pottery, metal tools, coins, wine and luxury goods, military supplies. Local products moved outward too. Livestock, hides, grain, and local craft goods. Even in a frontier zone, trade connected the lowlands to a global system. For many communities, Rome brought danger, but also opportunity. Rome's limits, why the north stayed different. Rome never fully absorbed all of the lowlands in the same way it absorbed southern Europe. The northern coastal regions remained difficult. Frisian areas and wet coastal zones were hard to control and expensive to occupy. This created a cultural divide. Romanized influences stronger in the south. More independent tribal identity in the north. That division between different regional identities in the lowlands would remain a theme for centuries. Even in modern Dutch history, regional character matters. And it began here. The end of Rome, when the frontier breaks. By the 3rd and 4th centuries, Rome's power weakened. The empire faced pressure on all borders, internal instability, economic strain, and increasing migrations. Frontier regions like the Rhine became harder to defend. Fortresses declined. Military presence weakened. Roman authority faded slowly rather than collapsing instantly. The lowlands entered an era of transition. Rome left behind infrastructure and influence. But the imperial order was dissolving. And once Rome weakened, new powers moved in. The Franks rise, a new Europe forms. After Rome's decline, Germanic groups became increasingly dominant across Western Europe. Among the most important were the Franks. Over time, the Franks expanded and built a powerful kingdom that would shape medieval Europe. The southern lowlands became tied to Frankish rule. Frankish influence brought new political structures, early medieval land systems, Christian expansion, and the beginnings of feudal organization. This was the start of a new era, not Roman Empire, but medieval Europe. Christianity spreads through the lowlands. One of the biggest long-term transformations after Rome was the spread of Christianity. At first, Christianity was tied to Roman towns and influence. Later, Christianization expanded through Frankish power and missionary work. Missionaries traveled into regions still holding older pagan traditions. Some conversions were peaceful, others were forceful. Christianity spread slowly, village by village, ruler by ruler, century by century. And once Christianity took root, it became a cultural framework for the medieval Netherlands. Churches became centers of community. Christian festivals replaced older rituals. And identity began to shift toward the Christian world of Europe. The Frisians, northern independence. In the north, the Frisians remained important. The coastal regions had strong maritime culture, connected to trade, ships, and coastal survival. Frisian power would later rise significantly in medieval history. Even in this early era, the north was not simply ruled in a clean way. It was contested. The lowlands were a border world. They always have been. A land preparing for the Middle Ages. By around 800 CE, the Netherlands did not exist as a nation. There was no Dutch state. No single ruler controlling the whole region. But the foundations were forming. Rivers as trade routes. Water as the central challenge. Frontier identity shaped by resistance and adaptation. Christianity becoming cultural structure. Early medieval lordship forming in the south. Strong coastal identity in the north. The lowlands were becoming a place where towns would rise, merchants would gain power, and water management would shape society like nowhere else in Europe. The Netherlands was not yet born, but it was being prepared. Closing reflection, the borderland becomes a people. The first chapter of Dutch history is not about kings and crowns. It is about landscape, about survival in the delta, about living at the edge of empire, about trading and resisting, about adapting to water and power. Rome tried to hold the Rhine. The Franks tried to shape the south. The coast remained its own world. And out of this complicated frontier zone, something unique began to form. A people built by borders. A culture shaped by cooperation, because water demanded it. In the next chapter, the Middle Ages begin to take full shape. Counties will rise. Dikes will expand. Cities will grow wealthy. And the lowlands will begin turning from frontier territory into the foundations of the Netherlands. Feudal lands and rising towns, 800 to 1200 ***. 4 opening scene. The Middle Ages begin in water and fire. The Roman world had faded. Its forts fell quiet. Its roads decayed. Its soldiers marched away and did not return. And in the lowlands, the rivers kept flowing as they always had, calm one season, destructive the next, while new powers rose in the space Rome left behind. This was the beginning of the medieval Netherlands, a time of lords and monasteries, tribute and violence, growing towns and shifting borders. But most of all, it was an age where two forces shaped everything: water and survival. Because the lowlands did not become the Netherlands through conquest alone. They became the Netherlands because people learned to hold their ground against the sea and against the chaos of the medieval world. A landscape without a single master. Around the year 800, there still was no Netherlands. There was no unified Dutch kingdom. Instead, the lowlands were divided into regions that belonged to a larger medieval world, often tied to the Frankish realm and, later, the Holy Roman Empire. Power was local. A count controlled one region. A bishop controlled another. A strong family held a stretch of land near rivers. A monastery owned fields and villages. The map was fragmented, like pieces of a puzzle that hadn't yet locked together. And that fragmentation meant constant rivalry. Feudal life, land is power. In medieval Europe, wealth meant land. Land meant food. Food meant survival. And survival meant obedience. This was the logic of feudalism. A powerful noble could control farmland, peasants, roads, waterways, and law itself. In return, peasants worked the land, paid tribute, and relied on their lord for protection. But in the Netherlands, feudalism had a unique complication. The land itself was unstable. A flood could erase fields. A storm could destroy villages. A river could shift and swallow everything. So power here wasn't just about owning land. It was about controlling water. The first great Dutch skill, defending land from the sea. Long before windmills became symbols, the Dutch were already fighting water with engineering. Early medieval communities built dikes, drainage channels, embankments, and raised settlements, not as luxury projects, as survival tools. Unlike many parts of Europe, where the main challenge was defending against other humans, in the lowlands there was always another enemy: the sea. This forced communities to cooperate, because you cannot stop floods alone. A single household cannot build a dike system. Water management demands collective action, and this became one of the most important cultural foundations of the Netherlands. Cooperation as necessity. Waterboards, early Dutch organization. Over time, communities developed early forms of organized water control, local structures that evolved into what we now think of as waterboards. This is remarkable because it shows something rare in medieval history: local self-organization. People didn't only wait for kings to fix problems. They built institutions themselves, because if they didn't, they drowned. This practical mindset, problem-solving through organization, would later support Dutch urban growth, trade, and political innovation. In a strange way, the sea trained the Netherlands to become modern. The North Sea threat, Vikings in the lowlands. But water wasn't only floods. It was also invasion routes. From the late 700s into the 800s and beyond, Vikings raided across Europe, and the lowlands were not safe. The rivers and coastline were perfect entry points. A Viking longship could appear suddenly on a river. Villages could be attacked before any defense could respond. Trade routes became danger routes. Monasteries, rich in valuables and poorly defended, became targets. This meant the lowlands were pressured from both directions. The sea threatened from nature, and the sea threatened from violence. Defense, castles, and power. In response to raids and instability, medieval rulers and nobles strengthened defenses. Castles and fortified settlements became more important. Control over a river crossing or strategic trade point meant wealth. Because if you control movement, you control trade, and trade was slowly growing again. Even after Rome, Europe could not stay purely rural forever. The medieval economy was waking up, and the lowlands were positioned to benefit. Trade returns, rivers as highways. The Rhine, Meuse, and Scheldt were more than geography. They were economic highways. Merchants moved goods along rivers and coastlines. Salt, fish, wool, cloth, grain, timber, tools and metals. Markets expanded. Towns grew along key river junctions. When trade grows, towns grow. And when towns grow, society changes. Because towns create a new kind of power, different from feudal land control. They create merchant power. Utrecht, a city of church and influence. In this era, Utrecht emerged as one of the most important centers in the lowlands. Utrecht's power was shaped heavily by the church. Bishops held political authority, land, and influence. In many parts of medieval Europe, bishops were not merely religious leaders. They were rulers. They could command armies, impose taxes, and shape law. Utrecht became a key city because it sat in a strategic region and carried spiritual legitimacy. Religious authority in the medieval Netherlands wasn't separate from politics. It was politics. The Holy Roman Empire, a bigger shadow over the lowlands. After the Frankish realm evolved, parts of the lowlands became tied into the Holy Roman Empire. This did not mean constant direct rule from a faraway emperor. Medieval empires were loose. Local lords had autonomy. But being part of a larger imperial structure mattered. It shaped law and legitimacy. It influenced trade connections. And it connected the lowlands to wider European power struggles. The Netherlands was not isolated. It was already part of continental politics. The County of Holland begins to rise. One of the most important developments in this period is the growth of regions that would later become core Dutch provinces. The County of Holland began to rise in power. Holland was not yet the economic giant it would become later, but its position was strong. Coastal access, river routes, growing control over reclaimed land. As Count strengthened authority and encouraged settlement and trade, the foundations of later Dutch dominance were being laid. This is where the word Holland begins its long path toward global fame. Land reclamation, creating the Netherlands, literally. A unique truth about the Netherlands is this: parts of it were not always land. The medieval Dutch did not merely live in the lowlands. They expanded them. Through drainage and dike building, communities reclaimed marshes and wetlands. This created new farmland. And new farmland meant population growth, new villages, more surplus food, expanding wealth. In most countries, territory is fought for. In the Netherlands, territory was also engineered. They built the country. This created a cultural mentality that would shape Dutch identity for centuries. We can shape the world, because if you can push back the sea, you can imagine pushing back anything. The rise of medieval town life. As towns grew, medieval Dutch society began changing. Towns created markets, craftsmen guilds, merchant wealth, and local urban governance. Urban life introduced a different form of power, one less tied to noble birth and more tied to trade, money, and organization. This is the early foundation of a Dutch tradition that would later become world-changing. Cities as engines of wealth. The seeds of Dutch independence begin here. The Netherlands would later become famous for resisting empires. But that resistance was built slowly. In this era, the lowlands learned to rely on local organization, cooperative systems, and strong regional identities. This mattered, because when the time came to resist central authority, whether Burgundian, Spanish, or French, the lowlands already had a tradition of local strength. Water management trained communities to act together. Town governance trained people to organize. Trade trained them to defend autonomy. The political DNA of the Netherlands was forming. Closing reflection, the lowlands become a medieval engine. Between 800 and 1200, the lowlands stopped being just a frontier. They became something sharper, a medieval engine of growth. Feudal lords still ruled much of life, but towns were rising. Trade was returning. Water control was expanding, and regional counties like Holland were strengthening. Most importantly, the Dutch relationship with water became a national foundation. A people who could survive here, could survive anywhere. And that resilience, built through mud, dikes, and flood fear, would eventually power one of the greatest economic and political transformations in European history. Because next comes the age of cities and merchants. The age where Dutch towns stop being regional hubs and start becoming players in world trade. Merchants, cities, and the Hanseatic Age, 1200 to 1500, ***. 4 Opening scene, when towns become power. By the year 1200, the lowlands were changing fast. This was no longer only a land of scattered villages and feudal lords. Across the rivers, along the coast, and beside the canals that people carved into the landscape, towns were rising like sparks in the dark. Walls went up. Market squares expanded. Merchants began counting wealth not in acres, but in coin. And with every ship that entered a harbor, every cart that rolled into a market, every contract sealed by a handshake and a seal of wax, a new kind of power was being born. Not the power of kings, the power of commerce. This chapter is the era where the Netherlands begins to look like what it will later become. A civilization of cities, trade, ships, and money. A region that would soon be too wealthy, too connected, and too ambitious to remain anyone else's possession. Why the lowlands were built for trade. The geography of the Netherlands wasn't made for grand castles and mounted armies. It was made for movement. Rivers flowed through it like veins. Rhine, Meuse, Scheldt. They carried goods from deep inland Europe to the sea. And the North Sea connected the lowlands to England, Scandinavia, the Baltic, France, and beyond. This made the region naturally commercial. A merchant in the lowlands did not need to conquer territory to grow wealth. He needed ships, a dock, and the ability to move goods faster than anyone else. The Dutch weren't sitting on mountain gold. They were sitting on transport advantage. And transport advantage becomes wealth. The medieval trade revolution. Between 1200 and 1500, Europe began expanding economically. Population rose. Farming improved. Towns grew. Markets spread. This period is sometimes seen as one of Europe's great commercial awakenings. And the lowlands were perfectly positioned to benefit. Because when Europe's trade expands, the lowlands become the crossroads. Northern Europe traded with Southern Europe. Inland Europe traded with coastal Europe, and Dutch cities sat directly between them. The rise of Dutch cities. In this era, many towns that later become globally famous began rising in importance. Amsterdam, still small early on, but growing. Rotterdam, developing as a river hub. Utrecht, a major religious and trade center. Leiden, Delft, Haarlem, craft and textile development. And in the east, cities tied to German and Baltic trade. Cities grew because they offered something the countryside didn't: protection, markets, and opportunity. Inside a town, a person could become a craftsman, a trader, a shipbuilder. Urban life created social mobility, and social mobility fuels economic energy. Guilds, the power of organization. Medieval towns were not free-for-all marketplaces. They were structured. Guilds formed to control craft production and trade standards. A guild protected its members by controlling who could practice a trade, how goods were produced, what quality standards existed, pricing influence, and training systems for apprentices. Guilds weren't only economic, they were political. They gave towns internal strength. They created a sense of identity within urban life. In the lowlands, guild power helped shape the culture of organized commerce. This would later evolve into a Dutch obsession: efficiency, reliability, and trust in trade. Markets and money culture. The medieval lowlands developed a strong money culture early compared to many other regions. Contracts mattered. Debts mattered. Written agreements grew more common. Commerce required trust, but trust required structure. So towns began developing legal systems to support trade. Merchant courts, city charters, local laws that protected markets. In a feudal world where a lord could simply seize what he wanted, towns needed guarantees. So they fought for privileges, rights, charters, legal autonomy. And in return, rulers realized something. Wealthy towns could fund wars. A wise ruler didn't crush towns. He taxed them carefully. The lowlands became a negotiation space between rulers and merchants. That negotiation would later become the foundation of Dutch political culture. Water as infrastructure. As towns grew, canals and waterways became essential infrastructure. The Dutch did not simply use water. They engineered it. Channels were dug to connect settlements. Drainage improved farmland. Harbors developed. Dikes protected towns. Water management wasn't only survival anymore. It was commerce. If you can move goods faster by water than by road, you dominate trade. And the lowlands were becoming a water-based trade network, a medieval logistics system. The Hanseatic League, Northern Europe's trade empire. One of the most important commercial forces of this era was the Hanseatic League. It wasn't a nation. It was a network, an alliance of merchant cities across Northern Europe, especially around the Baltic and North Sea. Hanseatic cities traded goods like timber, grain, fish, cloth, metal goods, salt and luxury products. Some Dutch towns became connected to Hanseatic trade networks, especially in the eastern north. This was vital because it connected the lowlands to a wider world of organized merchant power. And merchants learned something powerful from the Hanseatic model. Trade is strongest when cities cooperate. This lesson was very Dutch. Dutch ships and the rise of seafaring power. The lowlands were building a maritime culture. Shipbuilding improved. Navigation skills expanded. Ports grew. Fishing became commercial. Herring became a major commodity. This isn't minor detail. Because in medieval Europe, reliable food supply mattered. Salted fish could feed armies and towns. Herring fishing wasn't just diet. It was economy. And the Dutch became specialists at turning food into industry. Every ship meant jobs. Sailors, rope makers, sail makers, carpenters, merchants, dock workers, traders. Ports created entire ecosystems of wealth. The cloth and textile economy. Many lowland towns became important centers of textile production. Wool and cloth were among Europe's most valuable goods. English wool was famous. Flanders became a major cloth manufacturing region. The lowlands sat in the middle of this system. Wool imported, cloth made, cloth traded outward. This created urban wealth and growing merchant classes. And merchant classes always want something. Influence. The merchants become political. In feudal Europe, politics was supposed to belong to nobles. But money changes politics. When towns grow wealthy, rulers need them. Towns can fund armies, pay taxes, and supply goods. So merchants gained leverage. Towns demanded rights. Reduced feudal interference. Local courts. Control over markets. Defensive walls. Trade privileges. Over time, cities became semi-independent in practice. They were not republics yet, but they were no longer powerless. Conflict, the price of wealth. Wealth attracts enemies. The lowlands experienced conflict in this era. Rivalry between towns. Competition over trade routes. Battles between local lords. Tension between nobles and merchants. Foreign powers trying to control the region's wealth. The lowlands were too valuable to be left alone. Their cities were becoming economic prizes. And history teaches a simple rule. When a region becomes valuable, someone tries to own it. That someone would soon be the great dynastic powers of Europe. The rise of Burgundian influence. By the late medieval period, powerful dynasties began consolidating control over the Low Countries. The Burgundians, already wealthy and ambitious, expanded influence across the region. This marks a turning point. Because the Netherlands was no longer just feudal counties and independent towns. It was becoming part of European high politics. Foreign rulers saw the lowlands not as swampy frontier, but as treasure. and treasure must be controlled. The stage was being set for the next era. Centralization, taxation, resistance. The cultural shift, a new identity begins. During these centuries, something subtle began forming. A shared lowland identity. Not yet a nation, but a sense of common life shaped by towns, trade, water control, pragmatic organization, and resistance to outside interference. The Dutch mentality, often described later, practical, commercial, cooperative, did not appear suddenly. It formed here, in medieval markets and canals. Closing reflection, the Netherlands becomes a merchant engine. By 1500, the lowlands were among the most economically dynamic regions in Europe. Cities were rich. Trade was expanding. Shipbuilding was improving. Merchant power was rising. And this changed everything. Because the Netherlands was becoming too wealthy to remain free of foreign control. In the next chapter, the great dynasties arrive fully. Burgundian rule becomes stronger. Habsburg power grows. Spanish control tightens. And the Dutch, already trained by water, trade, and independence, begin moving toward the conflict that will define their national birth. Rebellion. Burgundian and Habsburg rule, a region controlled 1400s 1568. When wealth becomes a target. The Low Countries were no longer just towns and rivers. By the late Middle Ages, this region had become one of the richest places in Europe. Its merchants moved goods across seas. Its cities produced cloth, ships, and money. Its harbors connected continents. And in the world of dynasties, wealth attracts one thing above all: control. Powerful rulers didn't look at the Low Countries and see independent towns. They saw revenue. They saw taxes. They saw an economic engine that could fuel empires. So the Netherlands entered a new era, one shaped by foreign rulers, growing central authority, and the slow tightening of a political grip. It didn't happen overnight. It happened like a rope pulling tighter, until the moment it snapped. The Burgundians arrive, a new kind of rule. In the 1400s, the Dukes of Burgundy expanded influence across the Low Countries. Burgundy wasn't just a small duchy. It was one of Europe's most powerful political forces, rich, ambitious, and deeply connected to high European culture. Burgundian rulers understood the value of the lowlands. Wealthy cities, highly organized markets, strong craft industries, huge trade potential. But Burgundian rule represented something new: centralization. The Netherlands had long been fragmented: counties, bishoprics, city councils, regional lords. Burgundy began pulling these pieces together under one political vision. Not yet a unified state, but closer than ever before. The Low Countries as a political prize. The Burgundians weren't ruling empty land. They were ruling dense, wealthy urban societies. Cities like Bruges, Ghent, Antwerp rising strongly, and towns across Holland and Brabant. These were cities with money, legal traditions, and pride. And proud cities do not submit easily. So Burgundian rulers had to manage a constant balancing act. Central control vs local privileges. Tax demands versus merchant autonomy. Imperial ambition versus city resistance. This created tension, because the Low Countries weren't used to being told what to do. They were used to negotiating. Antwerp rises, Europe's new commercial heart. In the late 1400s and early 1500s, Antwerp became one of the most important commercial cities in Europe. Trade shifted. Markets expanded. Antwerp's port grew into a global exchange point for goods, finance, and merchants from across Europe. This mattered because wealth was no longer spread evenly. It was concentrating. And Antwerp became a symbol of what the Low Countries represented. An economic engine too valuable for kings to ignore. Marriage and empire, the Habsburg takeover. The Low Countries did not become part of a larger empire only through conquest. They became part of it through dynastic politics. Marriage alliances tied Burgundy's territories into the Habsburg dynasty. And the Habsburgs were not ordinary rulers. They were one of the most powerful families in Europe, controlling vast territories across the continent. Through inheritance, the Low Countries became linked to a global empire. And soon, one name stood above all. Charles V. Charles V, a man who ruled an impossible empire. Charles V inherited an enormous domain, Spain, the Low Countries, parts of Italy, Austria, and overseas empire connections. His rule is often described as the empire where the sun never set. But an empire that large needs money. Endless money. Wars against France. Conflict with the Ottoman Empire. Defense of Catholic Europe. Administration across continents. And Charles V knew where the money was. The Low Countries. The Netherlands became essential to imperial finances. Not because they were politically obedient, but because they were economically powerful. Centralization titans, institutions of control. Under Habsburg rule, the Low Countries saw increasing bureaucracy and central governance. New councils, new taxation systems, more oversight from central authorities. For cities and provinces used to autonomy, this felt like pressure. The Netherlands wasn't used to being managed from above. It was used to managing itself. So every new layer of imperial control created resentment, especially when it came with higher taxes. The tax problem, paying for someone else's wars. One of the biggest tensions was simple. Money. The Low Countries were being asked to pay for wars they didn't choose. A merchant in Amsterdam didn't care about Habsburg wars in Italy. A craftsman in Ghent didn't want to fund imperial ambitions against France. But imperial logic doesn't care about local feelings. It cares about revenue. So taxation increased. And when taxes rise in a wealthy commercial society, resistance grows fast. Because merchants measure freedom in currency. And they could feel freedom being taken. Religion begins to fracture Europe. While political pressure increased, another force erupted across Europe: the Reformation. Martin Luther's ideas spread. Protestant movements grew. Europe's Christian unity fractured. Catholic rulers saw Protestantism as rebellion against God and state. But in the Low Countries, Protestant ideas spread quickly, especially in cities where literacy and trade networks made new ideas move faster. New religious identities formed. Lutheran influence. Calvinism rising strongly. Other reform movements spreading underground. Religion became not just belief. It became political identity. And in the Netherlands, it became resistance language. Philip II. Control hardens into oppression. When Charles V stepped down, his son Philip II of Spain took control of the Low Countries. Philip II was deeply Catholic, deeply centralizing, and determined to enforce religious unity. He viewed Protestantism as a threat, not only to souls, but to obedience. Under Philip II, enforcement became harsh. Religious persecution intensified. The Inquisition-like systems and harsh punishment created fear and anger. This was no longer negotiation. This was control. And the Low Countries were not built to accept absolute control. The Dutch mentality collides with Spanish rule. Spain's imperial style leaned towards strong central authority and religious uniformity. The Low Countries leaned toward local privileges, regional autonomy, merchant negotiation, pragmatic tolerance, and strong city governance. These two systems were incompatible. The Netherlands wasn't just resisting taxes. It was resisting a political worldview. A worldview that demanded submit, obey, unify under one crown and one faith. But the Low Countries had grown wealthy precisely because they did not function that way. They were diverse, decentralized, commercial, flexible, and that flexibility was being squeezed. The nobility and the cities begin to push back. Resistance grew from multiple layers of society. Some nobles resented losing power to central government. Cities resented interference with their privileges and trade. Religious minorities feared persecution. Ordinary people resented harsh enforcement. The Low Countries were becoming a pressure cooker, and pressure cookers eventually explode. 1566, the iconoclastic fury. One of the defining sparks came in 1566 with waves of iconoclasm, Protestant-led destruction of Catholic religious images in churches. This was more than religious vandalism. It was a message. The old authority was being rejected. To Spanish rule, it was rebellion. To many in the Low Countries, it was liberation. But it triggered Spain's harsh response. The Duke of Alba arrives, terror as policy. Spain responded by sending the Duke of Alba with troops to restore order. His rule became infamous. Executions increased. Punishments were severe. Fear spread through cities. This approach was meant to crush resistance, but it did something else. It convinced many Dutch provinces that peace under Spain was impossible. A government can survive taxes, but terror creates revolution. 1568, the edge of war. By 1568, the Netherlands stood at the edge of one of the longest and most defining conflicts in European history. The Dutch Revolt, also called the 80 Years' War. This would not be a simple rebellion. It would be a war of survival, religion, identity, and political freedom. A war that would create the Dutch Republic. A war that would shape the modern Netherlands. But at this moment, right before the flames truly rise, the Low Countries are trapped between what they are and what an empire demands them to become, and they are about to choose. Closing reflection, the rope tightens before it breaks. Burgundian and Habsburg rule brought wealth, global connection, and political significance. But it also brought control. And in the Low Countries, control was the one thing people refused to accept without negotiation. Taxes rose. Central authority expanded. Religious persecution intensified. Local privileges were threatened. The Netherlands was being squeezed. And the more it was squeezed, the more it resisted. Because the Dutch identity forming beneath the surface was already clear. Practical, independent, urban, commercial, unwilling to bow to distant rulers. The next chapter is where the rope snaps, where rebellion becomes war, where independence is written in blood and fire, where the Netherlands is no longer just a region, but a nation in the making. The Dutch Revolt, Independence in Blood, 1568 to 1648, ****. 4 Opening scene, when a small country refuses an empire. The Netherlands did not become a nation through peaceful agreement. It became a nation through refusal. Refusal to be taxed into silence. Refusal to be governed from far away. Refusal to surrender its cities, its faith, and its freedom. In the late 1500s, the Low Countries stood under the weight of the most powerful empire in Europe, Spain. Spain had wealth from the New World, the strongest army in Europe, a global empire stretching across oceans, and a king who believed he ruled by divine right. But the Dutch had something Spain underestimated, a population shaped by water, trade, and stubborn independence. And when they rose, they did not rise briefly. They rose for 80 years. This chapter is the war that created the Netherlands. 1568, the revolt begins. The revolt didn't start as one united national movement. It began as rebellion in fragments. Nobles resisting loss of power. Cities resisting taxation, Protestants resisting persecution, merchants resisting central control. But Spain responded with brutality, executions, repression, military occupation, and each act of force created more resistance. By 1568, conflict was no longer political tension. It was war. William of Orange, the face of resistance. One name stands at the center of Dutch independence. William of Orange. William was not originally a simple revolutionary hero. He was a noble, a political figure navigating the power world of Europe. But he became the symbol of Dutch resistance, not because he was perfect, but because he embodied something the Dutch desperately needed: leadership with legitimacy. He helped unite provinces. He negotiated alliances. He gave the revolt a political spine, and he gave the rebellion a face the world could recognize. Faith and fire, a war of religion. This was not only a war about taxes. It was also a war about belief. Spain was fiercely Catholic and determined to crush Protestantism. But Protestant ideas, especially Calvinism, had spread through Dutch cities. For many Dutch Protestants, Spanish rule became religious oppression. For Spain, Dutch rebellion became heresy. This makes wars harsher, because when both sides believe God is on their side, compromise becomes betrayal. The Dutch revolt became a war where faith was fought alongside fortresses. The sea beggars, rebels from the water. One of the most legendary groups of the revolt were the Guizen, often translated as the beggars or the sea beggars. These were rebel fighters who used ships to raid and strike Spanish positions. In 1572, the capture of Brielle by the sea beggars became a major turning point. It wasn't just a victory. It was a symbol. It proved Spain could be pushed back. It ignited wider rebellion. And suddenly, provinces that had hesitated began choosing sides. The revolt was spreading. Dutch geography becomes a weapon. Spain had powerful armies, but the Netherlands had something stronger than firepower: water control. The Dutch knew their land better than any invader ever could. They could flood fields, open dikes, turn farmland into lakes. This tactic, flooding the land to stop enemy armies, was brutal. It destroyed crops and villages, but it saved cities. It turned the Dutch landscape into a defensive machine. Spain might bring soldiers, but the Dutch could bring the sea. Siege warfare, the cities hold the line. The Dutch revolt was defined by sieges. Because the Netherlands was a land of fortified towns, whoever controlled the towns controlled the trade routes, and whoever controlled the trade controlled the war. Cities became battlegrounds. Hunger, disease, bombardment, civilian suffering, desperate defense. One of the most famous events was the Siege of Leyden, 1573 to 1574. The city held out against Spanish attack, suffering terribly. Then the Dutch flooded the surrounding land, allowing relief forces to reach the city. Leyden survived, and in honor of the city's endurance, the University of Leyden was founded, turning resistance into education. This is a key Dutch theme: survival through organization, and victory turned into institution. Spain's fury, the Spanish fury. Spain's military response included moments of extreme violence. One of the most infamous was the Spanish fury in Antwerp, 1576, when soldiers mutinied and attacked the city. Massive destruction followed. The shock was enormous. Antwerp was one of Europe's richest cities, and now it was burning. This wasn't just tragedy, it was political momentum. Violence pushed even more provinces into resistance. Spain's attempt to control the Netherlands was backfiring. The provinces unite. The Dutch rebellion wasn't automatically unified. Northern and southern provinces had different religious and political realities. But Spain's repression forced choices. Eventually, northern provinces formed stronger alliances against Spain. They created a political foundation that would become the Dutch Republic. This was the revolutionary idea. Provinces could govern themselves without a king. In a Europe ruled by monarchs, this was radical. It wasn't just rebellion. It was a new political identity. The Dutch Republic is born. The revolt led to the formation of the Dutch Republic, a state built not around a crown, but around provinces and city power. It was not perfect democracy, but it was a new system. Decentralized, merchant-influenced, legally structured, politically innovative. This was a country that reflected its own geography. Multiple provinces, connected like waterways, cooperating without a single dominating mountain king. The Dutch were building a state as they built dikes. Collectively, practically, and stubbornly. A divided Low Countries. The revolt also created long-term division. The northern provinces became independent. The southern provinces remained more closely tied to Spanish rule and Catholic identity. This split shaped future European history, laying foundations for what would eventually become separate modern states in the region. War becomes normal life. The 80 Years' War wasn't one continuous battlefield every day. It moved in phases. Truces came and went. Some years were quiet, others brutal. But for generations, war became the background of Dutch life. Children were born into conflict. People grew old in conflict. Entire cities lived with the sound of soldiers and the fear of siege. And yet, even in war, Dutch commerce continued. This was the strange Dutch strength. The ability to trade while fighting. To build wealth while under attack. To fund war through markets. The Dutch learned global strategy. During the revolt, the Dutch began expanding outward. They couldn't rely only on European trade routes. Spain controlled too much power. So the Dutch looked to the sea. They began building a global presence. Not yet the full empire of the Golden Age, but the beginning of it. Because the revolt taught a lesson. If you want independence, you need economic power that no enemy can easily crush. Global trade became survival strategy. 1648, Peace and Recognition. After 80 years of conflict, the war ended with the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. Spain recognized Dutch independence. The Dutch Republic was now officially a sovereign state. This was not a small political event. It was one of Europe's great turning points. A new nation had been born through resistance. A republic had defeated an empire. The Netherlands had become real. What the revolt created. The Dutch revolt shaped Dutch identity permanently. Independence as a core value, suspicion of absolute rule, pride in local autonomy, resilience through water and strategy, and a belief that small countries can defeat large powers. This war didn't just create borders, it created mindset. And now, with independence secured, the Netherlands entered its most famous era. An explosion of wealth, trade, art, and empire. The Dutch Golden Age. Closing reflection. Independence forged by stubbornness. Spain had power, but the Dutch had stubbornness. And stubbornness, combined with organization and geography, became unstoppable. The Netherlands proved that the future could belong to those who refused to surrender. A nation was created not by royal decree, but by collective endurance. And now the question becomes, what does a new republic do once it wins freedom? In the next chapter, the Netherlands answers that question by becoming the world's greatest trading power. A small country with ships everywhere. A republic that turns commerce into empire. The Golden Age begins. The Dutch Golden Age, trade, art, and empire 1600s. The small republic that became the world's warehouse. In the 1600s, something happened that shouldn't have been possible. A small country, low, flat, and constantly fighting the sea, rose to become one of the most powerful forces on earth. Not through vast armies, not through a single emperor, but through ships, through trade routes, through contracts, through innovation, through a ruthless understanding of the global economy. This was the Dutch Golden Age, an era when the Netherlands became a global trading empire, and when Dutch art captured everyday life with such beauty that it still defines how we imagine the 17th century. But the Golden Age was not only prosperity and paintings. It was also conquest, colonization, and a global system built on exploitation. This chapter is the Netherlands at its peak, a republic that turned commerce into power, and power into history, a republic built for business. The Dutch Republic was different from its European rivals. Most of Europe was ruled by kings. The Netherlands was run through provinces and powerful cities, dominated by merchants and regents. This mattered because merchant rule creates a particular mindset: efficiency, investment, risk calculation, profit planning, and long-term strategy. The Dutch didn't only want survival, they wanted advantage. Their new independence forced them to think globally, because a small state surrounded by powerful enemies needs wealth to defend itself. Trade became national strategy. Amsterdam, the engine of Europe. No city symbolizes the Dutch Golden Age more than Amsterdam. Amsterdam grew rapidly into Europe's commercial heartbeat. Ships came in loaded with goods. Warehouses filled. Markets traded across oceans. Amsterdam became known as a financial center where money moved as quickly as water through canals. The city didn't just store goods, it stored power. And at the center of this system were the Dutch shipping networks, so efficient that the Netherlands became Europe's main distributor of trade items. This is why the Dutch were often described as the world's middlemen. They bought, transported, and sold everything. They became the warehouse of Europe. The innovation that changed trade, Dutch shipping power. The Dutch built ships designed for efficiency. They weren't always the biggest, but they were fast, practical, and cost-effective. They could transport massive quantities of goods with fewer crew, fewer costs, and better profit margins. In global trade, efficiency wins. This advantage meant Dutch merchants could undercut rivals. If the Dutch could ship cheaper and faster, they could dominate markets. And dominate they did. The VOC, the world's first corporate empire. The single most powerful institution of the Dutch Golden Age was the VOC. The Dutch East India Company, Verenigde Oostindische Company, founded in 1602. This wasn't just a business. It was a corporate empire. The VOC could wage war, build forts, sign treaties, govern colonies, and control trade routes. It was one of the earliest examples of a corporation acting like a state. This is crucial because it represents a new kind of global power. Not kings ruling empires, but companies ruling them. The VOC became the engine of Dutch wealth in Asia. Spices, textiles, and luxury goods flowed into Dutch hands. Spice routes and ruthless competition. Spices were not just flavor. In Europe, spices were gold. They were status, preservation tools, and luxury products. The Dutch competed violently with Portuguese and other rivals to control these routes. This competition was not polite commerce. It involved naval warfare, blockades, and conquest. The VOC created a system of dominance that could be brutal. When you control spices, you control profit. And profit was the Dutch obsession. The WIC and the Atlantic world. The Dutch Golden Age wasn't only about Asia. It also involved the Atlantic through the WIC, the Dutch West India Company. This connected the Netherlands to trade in the Caribbean, Brazil, for a time, North America, New Netherland, West Africa, and with this came one of the darkest realities of the Golden Age. The involvement in enslaved labor systems and the brutal exploitation tied to colonial economies. The Golden Age produced stunning wealth, but it was not clean wealth. It was global power built on global suffering. This is part of the truth of empire. New Netherland, the Dutch in North America. One of the most famous Dutch colonial ventures was New Netherland. Its main settlement was New Amsterdam, which would later become New York City. Dutch presence in North America didn't last as long as some other empires, but its legacy endured. Even today, Dutch place names and cultural traces remain part of early American history. This shows the scale of Dutch reach. A small republic projecting itself across continents. A navy that protected profit. Trade empires require protection, so the Dutch built naval strength. Their fleets defended merchant ships, fought rivals, and protected colonial holdings. The Netherlands became a maritime military power, not because it loved war, but because war protected trade, and trade protected survival. This is how commerce becomes geopolitics. The wealth explosion at home. Golden Age wealth transformed Dutch society. Cities expanded. Canals were built. Houses grew grand. Merchants lived like nobles. But Dutch wealth also created something unusual. A large, prosperous middle class, people who could buy art, invest in business, and shape culture. This middle class was one of the reasons Dutch art became so unique. Because artists weren't painting only kings. They were painting citizens. Dutch art, beauty in the ordinary. Dutch Golden Age art is famous because it focused on something revolutionary. Everyday life. Artists painted. Merchants and families. Streets and taverns. Still lifes of food and luxury objects. Landscapes and skies. Light on water. Ordinary moments made sacred through detail. This wasn't the art of royal propaganda. It was the art of a wealthy civic society. Painters like Rembrandt, Vermeer, and others captured a world of realism, light, and quiet intimacy. The Netherlands didn't just dominate trade. It dominated cultural memory. Rembrandt and the drama of light. Rembrandt became one of the great icons of Dutch culture. His art was deeply human, rich in emotion, shadow, and psychological depth. He painted wealth and struggle, pride and vulnerability. Dutch art wasn't only decoration. It was identity. It reflected a society obsessed with detail, discipline, realism, and the meaning of ordinary life. A culture built by merchants painted itself honestly. Science and ideas flourish. The Dutch Golden Age wasn't only art. It was also science, maps, and knowledge. Dutch printers, thinkers, and publishers benefited from a society where commerce demanded information. Maps improved because trade demanded navigation. Astronomy and engineering mattered because ships needed accuracy. The Netherlands became a place where knowledge had economic value. And when knowledge has value, society invests in it. Religious tolerance, practical, not perfect. The Netherlands developed a reputation for religious tolerance compared to many European states. This tolerance was not always pure idealism. Often it was practical economics. Merchants wanted stability. Conflict disrupts business. Allowing different communities to exist within limits helped prevent chaos. This made Dutch cities attractive to refugees, intellectuals, merchants from abroad, and refugees bring skills, networks, and ideas. Dutch tolerance helped Dutch profit. The dark side, wealth built on exploitation. It is important to face the full reality. The Dutch Golden Age included colonial conquest, violence, and exploitation. The VOC and WIC were not gentle organizations. Global trade systems involved coercion. Enslavement and forced labor supported Atlantic economies. Local populations in colonized regions suffered. This does not erase Dutch achievements, but it completes the picture. Empires rarely shine without casting shadows. The Dutch become Europe's financial power. Amsterdam became a financial center because Dutch trade created stable flows of money. Banking systems grew stronger. Investment practices expanded. The Dutch pioneered economic tools that shaped modern capitalism. Stock trading, company shares, and complex finance expanded. The Dutch didn't just move goods. They moved money in new ways. The modern financial world has roots here. The peak of a small giant. By the mid-1600s, the Dutch Republic was at its height. It was globally connected, economically dominant, culturally brilliant. It had defeated empires and replaced them on the sea. It seemed unstoppable. But no golden age lasts forever, and the Netherlands' success created powerful enemies, because France and Britain were rising, and they wanted what the Dutch had: control of the world's trade. Closing reflection: the age that made the Netherlands legendary. The Dutch Golden Age turned the Netherlands into a global idea. It proved that a republic could dominate kings, that commerce could defeat armies, that water and ships could create empire. It created Amsterdam as a world city, Dutch art as timeless culture, and Dutch trade as global strategy. But it also created a legacy of empire, one built on expansion and exploitation. The Golden Age was brilliance and shadow, and now the Netherlands enters the next era, a world of major wars against Britain and France, a time when the Dutch must fight not for profit, but for survival again. Because the world does not allow small giants to remain unchallenged. Crisis and competition, wars with Britain and France, 1672 to 1815, ****. 4 Opening scene, the year the world came for the Dutch. In the 1600s, the Dutch Republic was a miracle of power. A small nation, newly born, dominating global trade. A republic wealthier than kingdoms. A fleet that reached across oceans. A golden age so bright it felt permanent. But history does not reward success with peace. It rewards success with enemies. And in 1672, the Dutch faced the moment every rising power eventually faces. The moment the world decides you have too much. This year became known in the Netherlands as the Rampjaar, the disaster year. Because in 1672, the Dutch Republic was attacked from multiple directions. And for the first time in generations, it looked like the Netherlands might not survive. From Golden Age to Target. Dutch power in the 1600s was built on trade dominance. But trade dominance creates rivalry. England wanted the shipping routes. France wanted influence in Europe. Other powers wanted the Dutch markets, Dutch colonies, and Dutch wealth. The Dutch weren't hated for who they were. They were hated for what they controlled. Global commerce. The Dutch were not just a country. They were an obstacle. and the late 1600s became the era when Europe tried to remove that obstacle by force. The Anglo-Dutch Wars, fighting on the sea. Before the disaster year, the Dutch had already fought major wars with England, the Anglo-Dutch Wars. These wars weren't about territory on land. They were about control of the oceans. Because whoever controls shipping controls the economy. The English wanted Dutch trade power broken. The Dutch wanted to protect their lifeline. The battles were brutal naval clashes, ships firing broadside cannons, boarding actions, fleets colliding in storms of smoke. Sea warfare wasn't just military. It was business warfare with cannons. And it proved something important. The Dutch were strong, but England was rising faster. The disaster year, 1672, surrounded. In 1672, catastrophe arrived. The Dutch Republic was attacked by France, England, and Allied forces from other regions. It was a nightmare scenario. A naval threat from England, a land invasion from France, and the Dutch had to fight both at once. For a republic built around trade and naval power, a strong land invasion was dangerous. Because unlike France, one of Europe's most powerful land states, the Dutch were not built for massive continental war. Their strength was water and ships. Now, they had to defend the heart of the Republic itself. France invades, the land threat becomes real. French armies advanced into Dutch territory, pushing deep enough to cause panic. Suddenly, the unthinkable became possible. Amsterdam threatened. The Republic collapsing. Dutch independence lost. This was not just war. This was a survival crisis. And when survival is threatened, politics turns violent. Internal chaos, the Republic turns on itself. During the disaster year, fear and anger exploded inside the Netherlands. The Dutch political system had long balanced competing factions. But now that balance broke. The public demanded strong leadership, and blame fell hard on political figures seen as weak or incapable. This era saw shocking internal violence and political upheaval. It proved a brutal truth. When a country fears extinction, it becomes ruthless even toward its own leaders. The House of Orange returns. In crisis, many Dutch turned to the House of Orange, symbols of leadership tied to the earlier independence struggle. William III of Orange rose to power as a central figure of resistance. William was not just a Dutch leader. He would become a key player in European politics. His leadership helped stabilize the Republic during its darkest moment. But he also represents a major shift. The Netherlands moving from a merchant-led golden era into a survival-driven geopolitical era. The Dutch waterline, weaponizing the landscape again. The Netherlands had one defense that no invading army could fully defeat: its ability to control water. The Dutch opened dikes and flooded land to block French armies. This tactic was desperate but brilliant. A battlefield of mud and water is deadly for marching armies. Horses struggle. Cannons sink. Supply lines collapse. The Dutch turned their geography into a wall, not stone, water. This was the old Dutch lesson repeating. If you can't beat the enemy with size, beat them with the land. Survival, but not victory. The Netherlands survived the disaster year. France did not conquer the Republic. Dutch independence held, but the Golden Age had been wounded. The Republic could still fight, but maintaining global dominance would be harder. The world was changing. England and France were becoming larger, stronger, and more centralized. The Dutch remained wealthy and skilled, but they were no longer unchallenged. England rises as the new sea power. The Anglo-Dutch rivalry revealed a long-term shift. England's naval capacity was rising to world dominance. England had population growth, growing industry, and expanding global ambitions. The Netherlands remained a maritime power, but England had scale. And in global competition, scale matters. Slowly, the Dutch began losing the position of being the world's main trader. They were still major, but the crown of dominance was slipping. William III becomes King of England. One of history's most dramatic twists came when William III of Orange became King of England as well. This changed everything. It meant Dutch leadership was now tied to English power. It shifted alliances. It reshaped European politics. And it created a new complex reality. The Netherlands and England could be rivals and partners, but partnership often benefits the larger power more. England gained huge advantage. The Dutch gained security, but lost strategic independence over time. This was not immediate collapse. It was slow transformation. The 1700s, decline without collapse. The 18th century is often seen as the period when the Dutch Republic declined. But decline does not mean the Netherlands became poor or irrelevant. It remained wealthy compared to many nations, financially important, culturally influential, politically active. But the Republic's position as the world's leading power faded. Why? Because other powers grew faster. Britain's empire expanded. France's population and armies dominated Europe. Global war became larger and more expensive. The Netherlands was now competing in a new scale of world politics. And the Republic struggled to keep up. Internal weakness, politics and division. The Dutch political system, once innovative, began to feel strained. Oligarchic city regions held much control. Political divisions deepened. Some wanted reform. Some wanted tradition. Some wanted stronger central authority. Others resisted it. This created internal tension. And internal tension becomes vulnerability. Because when the outside world pressures you, you need unity. The French Revolution shockwave. In 1789, the French Revolution erupted. Europe shook. Kings feared rebellion. Old systems collapsed. And revolutionary France expanded its influence far beyond its borders. The Netherlands could not escape this storm. By the mid-1790s, French forces entered the Netherlands, and the old Dutch Republic fell. 1795, the Batavian Republic. The Dutch state was reorganized into a revolutionary-aligned system often known as the Batavian Republic. This period reshaped Dutch governance, introducing reforms and new political ideas influenced by revolutionary France. But Dutch sovereignty was compromised. The Netherlands was no longer an independent republic shaping its own destiny. It was under the shadow of French power. Again, foreign rule returned, this time not Spanish, but French. Napoleon and the Netherlands. As Napoleon rose, control tightened further. At one point, the Netherlands became a kingdom ruled by Napoleon's brother. Later, parts were directly annexed into the French Empire. Dutch life was transformed by French laws and administration, conscription and military demands, economic disruption from war, trade restrictions and blockade effects. For a nation built on trade, the Napoleonic era was suffocating. It wasn't just political control. It was economic strangulation. 1815, the modern kingdom begins. After Napoleon's fall, Europe was reorganized at the Congress of Vienna. The Netherlands emerged into a new structure, the Kingdom of the Netherlands. This was a major shift. From republic to monarchy. From merchant-dominated governance to a modern European state model. The old Dutch Republic was gone. A new Netherlands was forming, one shaped by the lessons of crisis. Dominance can fade. Survival requires adaptation. And world politics is ruthless. The Netherlands had survived empire after empire. Now it would rebuild as a modern kingdom in a new European order. Closing reflection, the Golden Age ends, the nation endures. This chapter is the Netherlands learning that power is never permanent. The Dutch Golden Age made the Republic rich, global, and legendary. But success drew war, and war drew transformation. The disaster year tested whether the Netherlands could survive. It did. The Anglo-Dutch Wars proved the Dutch could fight, but also revealed Britain's rise. French Revolution and Napoleon proved the Netherlands could be controlled again, yet still endure. By 1815, the Netherlands stood changed. Less dominant globally, but still alive, still organized, still stubborn. And the next chapter is where the Netherlands rebuilds itself for the modern world. Industry, nation building, and the calm before the storm of world wars. A modern kingdom forms 1815 to 1914. After empire, the Netherlands rebuilds. The Napoleonic era ended like a storm finally moving away. The Netherlands had been occupied, controlled, reorganized, used for war. And when it was over, the country didn't celebrate a golden age. It faced a question, a hard, modern question. What is the Netherlands now? The old republic was gone. The era of being the world's leading trade empire had faded, and Europe was entering an age of machines, industry, nationalism, and modern states. So the Netherlands did what it has always done when the world changes. It adapted. This chapter is the Netherlands rebuilding itself into a modern kingdom, shaping new institutions, modern cities, and a national identity that would carry it into the 20th century. 1815, a new Netherlands is created. After Napoleon's defeat, European powers met at the Congress of Vienna to redesign the continent. Borders were adjusted. Kingdoms were restored. Balance of power became the obsession. The Netherlands emerged as the Kingdom of the Netherlands, created partly to serve as a strong northern buffer against France. In this new structure, the Netherlands was no longer a republic. It was a monarchy. This change was significant. The country moved from merchant-driven, decentralized rule to a state model that matched the rest of Europe's emerging nations. A modern kingdom needed unity, administration, and control. A bigger kingdom and a short-lived one. At first, the Kingdom of the Netherlands included both northern and southern regions. But this unity didn't last. Cultural, religious, and political differences created deep tension. The South was more Catholic and had its own identity and economic interests. In 1830, the southern provinces broke away in the Belgian Revolution. Belgium became independent. The Netherlands lost a large part of the territory it had been given. This shaped modern Dutch identity. The Netherlands became more clearly northern, more Protestant-influenced in culture, and more focused on its own internal development. It was smaller, but more coherent. A country that chooses stability. Unlike many European states in the 1800s, the Netherlands often prioritized stability over dramatic revolution. That doesn't mean there was no political change. It means the Dutch approach tended to be gradual and pragmatic. This is a key Dutch trait through history. The Netherlands rarely moves fast out of emotion. It moves strategically out of necessity. Industrialization arrives, slowly, then everywhere. The 19th century was shaped by industry. Across Europe, machines replaced hand labor, railways changed travel, and cities swelled with workers. The Netherlands industrialized more gradually than some of its neighbors at first. But by the mid to late 1800s, industrial growth became visible. Factories expanding, production increasing, trade modernizing, ports developing, new labor classes forming. This changed Dutch society deeply, because industrialization does one thing everywhere. It creates a new kind of conflict, not between nobles and peasants, but between employers and workers. Railways and the New Netherlands. One of the most powerful transformations of this era was transport. Railways expanded across the country. This shrank distance. A journey that once took days could take hours. Railways linked ports to inland towns, factories to markets, cities to countryside. They created one connected national economy. And national economies create national identity. Because people begin thinking as one country, not just one region. Rotterdam and the power of the port. As the Netherlands entered the modern era, Rotterdam's position grew more important. The Dutch had always lived through trade, and Rotterdam was perfectly placed for modern shipping and river transport. As global commerce increased, Dutch ports expanded. Harbor infrastructure improved. The Netherlands began building the foundations of what would eventually make it one of the world's major logistics hubs again. Trade never left the Dutch identity. Even after the Golden Age ended, commerce remained central. A modern state forms, law, government, and reform. The 1800s also reshaped governance. Across Europe, the age of absolute monarchy was fading. Citizens demanded representation. Governments modernized. The Netherlands moved in this direction too, developing stronger parliamentary structures and constitutional reforms. Power began shifting, slowly, from crown to institutions. Dutch political culture continued its tradition of negotiation. Not sudden collapse, but managed reform. This created relative stability. And stability created economic growth. Pillarization. Dutch society organized by identity. One unique element of modern Dutch society that developed later in this era was the concept of pillarization, verzuiling. Dutch society became organized into separate pillars: Protestant, Catholic, Socialist, Liberal. Each pillar had its own schools, newspapers, organizations, and institutions. This may sound divided, and it was. But it also created order. The Netherlands managed diversity through structure. Instead of forcing everyone into one identity, it created parallel systems that could coexist. This reflects Dutch history again. Organization as survival strategy. The Dutch colonial empire continues. While the Netherlands modernized at home, it still maintained overseas colonial power, especially in the Dutch East Indies, modern Indonesia. This part of Dutch history is complex and often painful. Colonial systems produced wealth and resources for Europe, but were tied to exploitation and domination of local populations. Even as the Netherlands developed modern rights and institutions in Europe, colonial rule overseas remained unequal and coercive. This contradiction is common in European history. Liberal ideas at home, built partly on extraction abroad. The Netherlands was no exception. The Dutch identity in the 1800s. By the late 19th century, the Netherlands was establishing a modern identity. A small but stable European kingdom. Deeply commercial and globally connected. Technologically modernizing. Politically reforming gradually. Proud of independence and order. It wasn't a militaristic empire like Germany or France. It wasn't trying to dominate Europe. Instead, it focused on trade, stability, and survival. But Europe was becoming more dangerous. Nationalism was rising everywhere. Militarization grew. Alliances formed. The modern world was building towards something catastrophic. 1914, the storm approaches. By 1914, the Netherlands had entered the modern age. Railways linked the nation. Ports fueled the economy. Cities grew. Politics modernized. But Europe was about to explode into the First World War, and the Netherlands, sitting between major powers, would face a familiar challenge. How do you survive when giants collide around you? The next chapter is about war, occupation, resistance, and national trauma. Because the 20th century would test the Netherlands in ways no flood ever could. Closing reflection, the calm before the world breaks. This era was the Netherlands rebuilding its strength, not as a global empire dominating seas, but as a modern nation forming its foundations. It lost Belgium and became smaller, but more unified. It industrialized. It modernized its government. It expanded ports and railways. It adapted, as it always does. But history was sharpening its knives. And the Netherlands was about to enter the century of world wars. The century that would put Dutch identity under the hardest test since the revolt against Spain. World wars, occupation, and survival, 1914 to 1945, ***. For opening scene, the century arrives like a dark tide. The Netherlands entered the 20th century like a country hoping for peace. It had rebuilt after Napoleon, modernized its cities, strengthened trade, created stability in a continent that was growing louder, more militarized, and more dangerous. But Europe was no longer the old chessboard of kings and treaties. It was becoming something else. A machine of alliances, weapons, nationalism, and mass war. And when that machine finally activated in 1914, the Netherlands found itself in the most dangerous position imaginable. A small country sitting between giants. This chapter is the Netherlands in the age of world wars. An era of neutrality, invasion, occupation, resistance, and trauma. World War I. The Netherlands chooses neutrality, 1914 to 1918. When World War I began, the Netherlands made a calculated decision. Neutrality. This wasn't cowardice. It was realism. The Dutch knew that fighting would be catastrophic. They were surrounded by powerful states. Germany, Britain, by sea power, France and Belgium nearby. Neutrality was a strategy to survive without being crushed. But neutrality didn't mean safety. Even without fighting, the Netherlands faced enormous pressure. War without battles, the strain of neutrality. During World War I, the Netherlands was squeezed by the conflict around it. Trade was disrupted. Goods became scarce. Refugees arrived, especially from Belgium. The Dutch had to manage humanitarian strain and economic stress while trying to stay out of the war. Neutrality became a daily balancing act. Trade without provoking blockades. Diplomacy without angering Germany or Britain. Defense preparedness without joining the conflict. Even peaceful survival required constant tension. A nation watching Belgium burn. One of the most emotional realities of World War I neutrality was Belgium's suffering. Belgium was invaded and occupied early in the war. The Netherlands could see destruction nearby. It reminded the Dutch of a truth. Neutrality is fragile. You are safe only as long as the great powers decide you are useful alive. The lesson stayed in Dutch memory. If war comes again, neutrality might not be enough. And in the next war, it wouldn't be. Between the wars, modern life with a shadow over it, 1918 to 1939. After World War I, Europe tried to recover. The Netherlands returned to growth and normal life. But the world was unstable. The 1920s and 1930s were shaped by economic hardship and the Great Depression, political radicalization across Europe, the rise of fascism and militarism, growing tension that made another war almost inevitable. The Netherlands did not want war, but war was moving toward it anyway. Germany rises, the threat builds next door. By the late 1930s, Nazi Germany was expanding aggressively. It took Austria. It took Czechoslovakia. It demanded more. Europe watched, hesitated, and failed to stop it. The Netherlands again leaned toward neutrality. The Dutch hoped the country could remain untouched as it had in World War I. But the Nazis did not care about hope. Germany wanted strategic position, and the Netherlands was strategic. Ports, rivers, access routes. A small nation in the wrong place. 1940, the invasion begins. In May 1940, Germany invaded the Netherlands. The war arrived suddenly, and within days, the country was overwhelmed. The Dutch fought, but the German military machine was too strong. And then came an event that shattered Dutch confidence completely. The bombing of Rotterdam. The bombing of Rotterdam. Rotterdam, one of the Netherlands' most important cities, was bombed heavily in 1940. The destruction was immense. The message was clear. Surrender, or cities will burn. It wasn't just an attack on infrastructure. It was psychological warfare. It forced the Netherlands to confront reality. This wasn't a normal invasion. This was modern, ruthless war. The Netherlands surrendered soon after, and occupation began. Life under Nazi occupation. Occupation is not only soldiers and flags. It is daily fear. It is the slow suffocation of freedom. German control reshaped Dutch life. Censorship, restrictions, forced obedience, propaganda, constant surveillance. The Netherlands became a controlled territory. And for many Dutch people, the early occupation years carried a dangerous illusion that perhaps life could continue. But occupation always deepens. And it did. Persecution and the Holocaust in the Netherlands. One of the darkest realities of Dutch World War II history is the persecution of Jews under Nazi occupation. Jewish communities, deeply rooted in Dutch cities, were targeted. People were forced into registration systems. Rights were stripped away. Deportations began. Families disappeared. The Netherlands became part of the Holocaust machine, and the story of Anne Frank became one of the most famous symbols of this horror. A young girl hiding in an Amsterdam attic, writing as the world narrowed around her. Her diary survived. But millions did not. This is not only history. It is trauma that shaped the Dutch national memory forever. Resistance, the quiet war inside the war. Even under occupation, Dutch resistance grew. Resistance wasn't always dramatic. Often it was quiet, hiding people, forging documents, spreading underground newspapers, sabotaging infrastructure, helping those targeted escape. Small acts were dangerous, but thousands chose them anyway. Resistance in the Netherlands showed a truth. Even when a country is occupied, it does not mean its spirit is conquered. But resistance also came with punishment. Many were executed. Many were imprisoned. The cost was high. Collaboration and moral complexity. Occupation also creates uncomfortable truths. Not everyone resisted. Some collaborated. Some complied to survive. Some benefited. This is the reality of occupation. It forces impossible choices. The Netherlands emerged from World War II with pride in resistance, but also with painful questions about what people did or did not do under terror. History isn't clean. It's human. The Hunger Winter, 1944 to 1945. As the war neared its end, the Netherlands faced another catastrophe. The Hunger Winter. Food shortages became severe, especially in the Western Netherlands. People starved. Families burned furniture for heat. Communities suffered cold and hunger while the war's final battles continued. This wasn't just hardship. It was national suffering. A reminder that war doesn't only kill with bullets. It kills with collapse. Liberation. In 1945, the Netherlands was liberated as the Nazi regime collapsed. The relief was massive, but liberation came with grief. The country had lost thousands. Jewish communities had been devastated. Cities were damaged. Society was traumatized. The Netherlands was free again, but it would never return to the innocence of pre-war Europe. The war had permanently changed the nation. Closing reflection, the Netherlands survives the darkest test. World War I tested Dutch diplomacy. World War II tested Dutch survival. The Netherlands lost neutrality. It lost safety. It lost people, homes, and certainty. But it did not lose identity. It endured occupation. It resisted where it could. It rebuilt after devastation. And when liberation came, it marked the beginning of a new Netherlands. A country determined never to be vulnerable again. In the next chapter, the Netherlands enters the modern era. Reconstruction, the welfare state, European unity, and a new identity shaped by peace and memory. Reconstruction, Europe, and modern Dutch identity 1945 present. A country rebuilt from ash and water. When the Netherlands was liberated in 1945, it wasn't simply a country celebrating freedom. It was a country damaged, physically, emotionally, and morally. Cities lay scarred. Families were missing. Jewish communities had been devastated. The economy had been crushed by occupation and war. And there was something else too. A new understanding of the world. The Dutch had once believed neutrality could protect them. But World War II proved neutrality was not armor. The modern world was too violent, too fast, too unpredictable. So the Netherlands entered the post-war era with one goal above all: rebuild, secure, and never be helpless again. This is modern Netherlands, the story of reconstruction, welfare, European unity, social transformation, and a country that turned survival into modern stability. 1945, the weight of freedom. Liberation brought relief. But relief quickly mixed with grief. Many returned home to find houses destroyed, towns damaged, loved ones gone, communities broken. And for many Dutch Jews, liberation came too late. The scale of loss could not be undone. Post-war Netherlands had to confront not only rebuilding roads and bridges, but rebuilding trust, identity, and moral confidence. The country did not simply move on. It carried the war forward in memory. Reconstruction, building a new Netherlands. The late 1940s and 1950s became a period of massive reconstruction. Housing had to be rebuilt quickly, infrastructure repaired, ports restored, industry modernized. The Netherlands focused on practical solutions, very Dutch in spirit. Repair what is broken. Strengthen what is weak. Organize what is chaotic. Rotterdam became a symbol of this mindset. After being bombed and devastated, it was rebuilt into a modern city, stronger, more industrial, more future-facing. Where older Dutch cities looked historic, Rotterdam looked forward. Water returns as an enemy, the 1953 flood. Even after surviving war, the Netherlands was reminded of its oldest threat: the sea. In 1953, a catastrophic flood struck parts of the Netherlands, killing many and causing enormous damage. It was a national shock, because it proved that the Dutch war against water was never finished. The response became one of the most famous engineering achievements in the world: the Delta Works. This was not just flood defense. It was national survival engineering. Massive barriers, dams, and storm surge protections designed to prevent disaster from happening again. The Netherlands didn't just rebuild after tragedy. It redesigned reality. The welfare state, security for ordinary life. Post-war Netherlands also changed socially. Across Europe, many states built welfare systems to reduce poverty and protect citizens. The Netherlands developed strong social programs: healthcare support, education expansion, worker protections, housing development, pensions and social security. The idea was simple. A stable society needs safety nets. After the fear and hunger of war, ordinary people wanted security. Not just survival. A stable life. This helped shape the Netherlands into one of the world's most socially stable countries. Decolonization, the end of empire. The Netherlands was also forced to confront its imperial legacy. After World War II, colonial systems weakened across the world. The Dutch fought to maintain control in some regions, especially the Dutch East Indies, Indonesia. But global momentum was moving toward independence. Decolonization reshaped the Netherlands. It was not only about losing territory. It was about losing an identity that had lasted for centuries. The Netherlands as an empire. This transition also shaped modern Dutch society through migration, memory, and political debate that continues today. The Netherlands and European unity. After World War II, Europe had one mission: prevent another war. The solution was not only treaties, it was integration. The Netherlands became a key supporter of European cooperation. Over time, this developed into the European Union, and the Netherlands became deeply integrated economically and politically in Europe. This fit Dutch interests perfectly. Trade, stability, predictable rules, open markets. The Netherlands had always thrived when borders were open for commerce. European unity supported Dutch prosperity. Modern Dutch prosperity, trade returns again. The Netherlands returned to what it has always done best: trade and logistics. Rotterdam became one of the world's most important ports. Dutch infrastructure became world-class. The country positioned itself as a gateway, a link between global trade routes and European markets. This is one of the most consistent Dutch patterns in history. Even when the Netherlands loses empire, it keeps commerce. Even when it loses global dominance, it keeps efficiency. Even when it is small, it remains essential. Social transformation. The Netherlands changes its culture. From the 1960s onward, Dutch society underwent major cultural shifts. New movements shaped life, expanding personal freedoms, changing religious influence. Modern progressive reforms, youth culture changes, stronger individualism. Older pillarized society gradually loosened. The Netherlands became more secular, more liberal socially, and more open to new identity conversations. This created both pride and tension, because social change always creates debate. But the Netherlands became globally known for pragmatic modernity, a multicultural Netherlands. Post-war migration changed the Netherlands. People arrived from former colonies and other regions, becoming part of Dutch society. This created a modern Netherlands that was more diverse than it had been historically. Diversity brought new communities, cultural enrichment, new challenges in integration and policy, and political debates that continue today. Modern Dutch identity became a conversation. What does it mean to be Dutch now? A nation with a long history rooted in local identity was now living in a globalized world. And the Netherlands, like all modern nations, had to adapt. Modern challenges, globalization and pressure. Modern Netherlands is prosperous, stable, and highly organized. But it faces modern pressures too. housing shortages, climate and sea level threats, political polarization, economic inequality debates, energy transition challenges, and balancing national identity with global realities. The Dutch still live with their oldest struggle. Water, climate change and sea level rise make Dutch engineering more important than ever. The Netherlands is again forced to do what it has done for centuries: hold the line against nature. The Netherlands in the world today. Today, the Netherlands is a modern European power in influence if not in size. It is known for trade and ports, engineering and water management, international law and diplomacy, stable institutions, and high quality of life. It is not an empire. It is a hub, a node, a country that proves small nations can matter enormously if they are strategic. Closing reflection: the Netherlands never stops rebuilding. The story of the Netherlands from 1945 to the present is not the story of conquest. It is the story of reconstruction. A country destroyed by occupation rebuilt itself. A society traumatized by war created security and stability. A nation threatened by water-engineered defenses on a world scale. A former empire adapted into a modern European state. And through it all, Dutch identity remained consistent, practical, organized, stubbornly resilient, built on cooperation, built on holding the line. The Netherlands did not become great by having the most land. It became great by refusing to lose what it had, to empires, to war, or to the sea. From the lowlands on the edge of the Roman world, to medieval cities built on trade and resilience, from rebellion against Spain, to a golden age that reached every ocean, from world wars and occupation, to modern peace, progress, and engineering that still holds back the sea. The Netherlands has never been defined by size. It has been defined by strength. Not the strength of dominating others, but the strength of endurance. Because this country was shaped by two constant battles, one against history and one against the water. And through every century, the Netherlands did the same thing. It adapted, it organized, and it survived. If you enjoyed this journey through Dutch history, hit like. It really helps the channel and supports videos like this. And if you want more detailed history documentaries from around the world, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. History never truly ends. It waits to be remembered. Until next time.